Well, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whoever you are, wherever you are, whenever it is for you. For me, it is just past midnight on tax day, April 15th, 2025. That makes this the news for Monday, April 14th, day 1146 of Vladimir Putin's war of aggression against the people of Ukraine. I'm Peter Alexievich, and this is the Live at 5, coming to you live from this major European capital, which is currently under siege. We are not under an air alert just at this moment, but we are certainly under siege. Hey, PH. Hey, Hobo. Hey, Nicola Jones. How's everybody doing? Hey, Chef Deb. Yeah, I did do some traveling last week. We'll talk about that in a minute. Let me start out. Wednesday I meet with my attorney. We're going to get the temporary residency permit for another year extended. Yay. I want to thank the sponsors of tonight's live who made that possible. Hey, Bobby. Hey, Richard Prexis. Chris Carter. Cynthia and Tony. Fitz. Dark Irish. Jose Hernandez. Lil Red Sunflower. Integral and Jerry O. Thank you guys all so much. And as somebody correctly pointed out, hey, Manda Bear. As somebody correctly pointed out, I did just return from my first vacation in 2 years. It was really a pleasant trip. I got to see Boom Chicago twice. Odin, I cannot tell you how inspiring these people are. Holy cow. And very humbling. Like, I thought we were doing okay, but no, we're shit. We're shit compared to these guys. So we have some growing to do, and I learned a few things, and they were absolutely spectacular. But I would not have had the great good fortune, right? Those shows are $32 a piece. I would not have had the great good fortune to go if it were not for everybody that helped, including Arne, Larry Nelson, David H., Jan Osten, David T., and Margaret Heller. So big thanks to them for the vacation. It was really very much appreciated. Now, literally, as my bus was leaving Kyiv, it started to snow. Hey, Jeff. Jeff, you'll appreciate this, right? So just as my bus was leaving Kyiv, it started to snow. The temperature plummeted about 20 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius. Snow starts falling. By the time we get out west, we're in a blizzard. In the end, the Carpathian Mountains saw over 1 meter of snow. And for the whole week, Ukraine was just a frozen wasteland, return of winter. This is a problem, because nearly all of the apricot orchards in Ukraine had already blossomed. According to Ukra Garden Prom, which is an NGO that monitors the agricultural situation here in Ukraine, we are looking at heavy losses of apricots and berries that were in bloom, like raspberries, blueberries maybe. We could be looking at, according to some estimates, upwards of an 80% loss of apples, pears, apricots, plums, blueberries, raspberries, blackberries, right? 80%. Now, you put Trump's worldwide 10% tariff on top of that, the loss of Europe's breadbasket of all their fruits. Look, things are not going to be cheap in the fall, guys. Things are not going to be cheap in the fall. And the more that Donald Trump trashes the American and global economies, the worse it's going to be. There is just no two ways about it. So it's a bad scene. And I'll tell you, this country did not need that on top of everything else that they've got going on. Because in addition to the snow bookending my vacation, because when I came back, the temperature immediately rose 20 degrees Fahrenheit, 10 degrees Celsius. the very day I got back. And the day after, it was another 10 degrees. So we're back to spring-like weather. But my trip was also bookended by two of the worst, most tragic Russian war crimes that we have seen to date. When I was leaving the country, that was when Kryvyi Rih got hit. And if you remember that was a playground hit with ballistic missiles with cluster munitions warheads. Those cluster munitions put out little tiny tungsten balls, right? They're traveling near the speed of sound and that tear people apart. 9 children on a playground were the target and the victims of that attack, and some folks in a nearby restaurant. No military personnel, no military honchos, no military targets, just children on a playground. The country is still mourning that loss when we have the Palm Sunday massacre, a ballistic missile attack, again using cluster munitions, on the center of Sumy on Palm Sunday. And the worst part of that attack is that it was a double tap. So the 34 civilians that were killed were mostly killed 45 minutes after the initial attack, when first responders were on the scene trying to save the lives of the first victims. When the second Iskander missile comes in, loaded with cluster munitions, and tears into the crowd. Currently, we've got 34 unalive, though that number is expected to grow, and another 100 in the hospital, with dozens more released with minor injuries. And Sumy was not the only civilian target this weekend. The Russians launched ballistic missiles and drones into the center of Kyiv. They were chasing down cars in Odessa, right? Just civilian cars on the highway going home from shopping or whatever. In Mykolaiv, we saw the same thing. In Dnipro, we saw large glide bombs strikes. Most of the casualties were in that attack, the Palm Sunday massacre on Sumy, which Donald Trump said, I was told it was a mistake. They made a mistake. No, Donald. They are flaunting the fact that with you in charge, they can do as they like. They have a pass. And they will commit any crime while paying lip service to this notion that they are making progress with you on a peace deal. Bullshit. Russia sent 62 reasons at the territory of Ukraine last night for me to believe Russia doesn't want peace. 62 incoming Shaheds, 40 of them taken out, shot down, another 11 disabled with electronic warfare and active countermeasures, for a total interception rate of about 82%. Where the drones got through, though, in Dnipropetrovsk, Kharkiv, and Kyiv, they caused real damage to the lives of real people. Oh, the response on Witkoff's meeting. Herb, you have got to be kidding me. Okay, so there's 2 guys here to talk about, right? There's Witkoff and there's General Kellogg. General Kellogg is supposed to be the special envoy to Ukraine and Russia for the peace negotiations, right? That's who Kellogg is supposed to be. And yet, Witkoff, the special envoy to the Middle East, is the one dealing with the Russians. Why? Because the Russians don't want to deal with Kellogg. Kellogg understands the Russians. Kellogg knows what's going on over here. And so in regard to Sumy, when the president of the United States is saying, oh, the Russians made a mistake. No. Kellogg very specifically said, What kind of scumbags target people at church on Palm Sunday? Right? He knows what's going on over here. Now, look, exactly, Thomas, right? He's got a military mind, and they don't want that. They want a piece of shit, billionaire asshole friend of Trump's with no political experience, no diplomatic experience, just a fat bank account and an inability to name the occupied territories in Ukraine. He can't even name them. Witkoff says that informs Trump that the easiest way to win the war is to just get Ukraine to hand over the temporarily occupied territories to Russia. In other words, surrender. Surrender 4 million of your people to the gentle mercies of the Russian Federation. 18.65% of your territory. Just give it to the aggressor and reward him for his bad behavior. Now, General Kellogg, now dig this. Now, this is a tricky one, right? So follow me on this. Kellogg was reported in the London Times as saying that an East-West Berlin partition of Ukraine was a possible future. Now, he has since objected to this interpretation. He was not suggesting a partition of Ukraine. Rather, what he was saying was once a ceasefire was reached, we could do like an East-West Berlin deal where NATO troops, European troops, not American, have security responsibility for Western Ukraine, and Russia has responsibility for Eastern Ukraine. Like East-West Berlin, East-West Germany. What is disappointing about this is that General Kellogg seems to have forgotten the tragic failure that the partition of Germany was. He has forgotten that it condemned to a life in the Soviet Union, the nightmare, the worst, most evil experiment in artificially constructing a human society, that the most misguided evil that we have ever seen in the history of the world condemned millions of Germans to a fate inside that society, to which they are still recovering, as we see they continue to vote pro-Putin. So General Kellogg objected to this interpretation, but I do believe General Kellogg is well-intentioned and a friend of Ukraine. No, I don't think NATO will ever get involved in this because the U.S. will make sure that doesn't happen. That does not preclude the involvement of European powers. The French and the British are getting ready to put boots on the ground here. Now, in what capacity, that is unclear, or what their function here will be. That's all quite unclear. But currently, the United States has to deal with the Tangerine Palpatine before they can do anything else. Because right now, the American federal system is in the hands of the Kremlin. That's a fact. And or say it's not, right? It doesn't make a difference because everything the guy does benefits the Kremlin. So he might as well be working for them. It certainly appears he is to me. They made a mistake. They made a mistake. No, they didn't make a mistake, Donald. They know that with you in charge, they can commit any crime they want because you're doing it in the United States of America every fucking day. The market manipulation of your tariff bullshit, which is intended for one purpose and one purpose only: to throw the global economy into a global depression so that you and Mohammed bin Salman and Vladimir Putin will have the biggest fire sale in American history on America itself. That's what this bastard is up to. There's no two ways about it. It is definitely, it's not just about the money, it's about power. It's definitely about power as well. So in addition to Sumy, we saw hits in Dnipro, Kharkiv, Dnipropetrovsk, Kyiv itself, of course, Mykolaiv, and in Kryvyi. In fact, in the last 30 days, right, which is supposed to all be under this ceasefire bullshit, Russia has launched 6,000 guided aerial bombs at the territory of Ukraine, 2,200 drones, and 70 missiles. It's hysterical to me how the pro-Russians always say Ukraine has already lost. It is Russia that has already lost and can't admit it. It is Russia who, every single one of Putin's stated goals, he has failed at. I don't want NATO on my border. Well, shit, now you got Finland and Sweden in NATO, and you have 1,200 more miles of border with NATO. Complete failure. Demilitarize Ukraine. Ukraine is the most militarized country in Europe now, and is not likely, and is building the greatest defense industry in Europe. It's not likely to be demilitarized anytime soon. Eliminate the Zelensky regime. Zelensky has a higher approval rating since Trump pulled his shit at the White House than he's enjoyed in 3 years. If elections were held today, Zelensky would likely win by a landslide. All of Vladimir Putin's threats and goals have come to nothing. He is the czar of ashes, presiding over the demise of 500 years of Russian civilization and the end of the Russian language as a living language in the world. Ciao bello. What else is going on here? To the family of Pavlo Ivanov, the Ukrainian F-16 fighter pilot who lost his life when his plane was shot down by no fewer than 3 Russian missiles. Please accept my most sincere condolences at this difficult time. The loss, the tragic loss of life is a daily reality in this war. The loss of equipment is to be expected. The story is not that the Russians shot down an F-16. The story is that after a year of running combat missions every single day, which, according to a U.S. Army General Cavoli, have an over 80% success rate, clearing the skies of missiles and drones, hitting targets, pummeling the Russian front line in close air support roles. The Russians finally got one F-16. That's the story. It's a story of Ukrainian ingenuity and resilience in the face of Russian incompetence. That's the story with the F-16 being shot down, in my opinion. Now, this is very interesting to me because, Trump is all about the money, right? Now, legitimately, I do believe that he is absolutely trying intentionally to crash the American economy so that he can buy it all up at wholesale prices. Fire sale, baby, for him and his billionaire buddies. He was actually bragging about how much money the bankers made on that dip nightmare that he caused and created, right? So he's very money motivated. But if he doesn't work for the Kremlin, how come when President Zelensky offered him $15 billion for 10 Patriot air defense systems, buy them, not gift them, Why didn't Trump sign that deal right away? Why didn't Trump sign up to that? Zelensky said he's willing to spend not just the 15 on the Patriots. He's willing to spend between 30 and $50 billion on American weapons. But Trump's not taking him up on it. Sounds to me like he works for Putin, because he does. Now, the Chinese prisoners of war. Sorry. That's a little bit of star anise I threw in the tea. Give it a little kick. So apparently, the Ukrainians have captured 2 Chinese nationals fighting on behalf of Russia. The stories that they are telling follow the familiar patterns that we have seen from Ethiopians, Ugandans, Sri Lankans, Indians, not Tibet, Nepalese, right? Same story. We were hired as guards for locations for military installations in Moscow and Petersburg. We weren't supposed to go to the front. We got in country, we signed the contract, they took our passports, put us in Russian uniforms, and sent us to the front. There are at least, we believe, 155 Chinese mercenaries like this that have been shanghaied into military service in Ukraine. The Chinese government refuses to acknowledge the participation of any of their citizens in the war in Ukraine. And yet we know, we've seen Chinese mercenaries on the battlefield before. It was a year ago now, it was last winter. Remember, there was that Chinese kid who was all gung-ho, all for the fight, until he got to the front line. And he wasn't on the front line for a week before he was begging his family to save him. He complained of a lack of medical attention. He had some kind of asthma or breathing problem, and that had turned into a lung infection. We don't know what his fate was, but he stopped posting. So the Chinese mercenaries, individual Chinese citizens, have been on the Russian side throughout this war. However, it does seem that there is a new push on from the Russian side to bring more Chinese in and more Africans, which says that they're having a real problem recruiting at home. And we know they are, right? Numbers are way down. I think right now they're bringing in 28,500 a month. They're losing far more than that, which means there's a net deficit on the front lines every month that goes on. That's going to hollow out the front lines. That could lead to the kind of collapse that we have all been waiting for so long. Now, in addition to wanting to purchase new air defense equipment from the U.S., the Ukrainians have announced that they are building their own, and they are looking for foreign investment. This is according to Andrei Shibia, the foreign minister. I apologize, I think I pronounced that wrong. Shibia, something, Andrei Shibia, foreign minister. At any rate, we had a lot of good news this weekend, or this past week anyway, last 4 days, of financial assistance to Ukraine. The Ramstein Group met again, this time under the direction not of America, who has surrendered its leadership in the world, just retired. We're not going to be relevant anymore to anybody else, right? We're done as a nation, leading the world. That's all over. You can hang it up. So this Ramstein Group meeting was led by Germany, because the Europeans are now in charge. The Europeans, as America creates its own inevitable decline, the Europeans are emerging as the new world superpower. Not China, Europe. Europe is. The Ramstein Defense Contact Group came up with, are you ready for this? 21 billion euros in weapons. Hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus. For drones, tactical radars, anti-tank mines, short-range anti-aircraft missiles. Pledges were made by Great Britain, Norway, Germany, Belgium, Estonia, and others. And that's all good stuff. More Gravehawks would be a good idea, Mel. But what is a great idea is taking the interest from frozen Russian assets and sending it to the Ukrainians. And the Ukrainians got a check for €1 billion this week exactly from that. From the interest on frozen Russian assets in the EU, baby. And there's 2.1 billion more on the way. That's good news. More good news out of Germany. The Germans, this guy Friedrich Merz, who's going to be the new Chancellor of Germany, did a couple things today. One, the Bundestag announced a new aid package. 4 Iris-T air defense systems. 300 Iris-T missiles for those air defense systems. 30 Patriot missiles. Thank you. In desperate need of Patriot missiles. 300 reconnaissance drones. 120 man pads. Man pads for everyone. 25 Marder IFVs. 15 Leopard APCs. 14 artillery systems. 100 ground surveillance radars. And 130,000 155 millimeter shells. Amazing Germany. That ain't shit compared to what Friedrich Merz also said today. Now, he should be Chancellor May 6th, 3 days before the Victory Day parade in Moscow. And what he has said today was that he is prepared to send Taurus to Ukraine. Taurus long-range missiles. Now, he can do this without an act of the parliament. He can do this right on his own authority. However, he made an interesting statement at the announcement. He said, in coordination with the UK and France. Okay. So he's creating a diplomatic environment in which he's essentially saying that I need the sign-off of these critical partners. And that if I don't get their sign-off, they'll veto it. I'll give them the power to veto it. Now, why would he do this? So I've heard some interesting theories from some analysts. One theory is Taurus contains a tandem warhead. That is to say, there's one big warhead that'll punch through a 3-foot concrete wall, make a hole. Then there's a second warhead that will hit whatever is inside that hole. Bunker buster, right? And one of the theories is that the reason that the Kerch Bridge is still standing is because ATACMS, Scalps, and Storm Shadows are all unitary warheads. They can't get through the bridge itself to get to the supporting infrastructure. And so because the bridge is such an important symbol of Putin's power, his $2 billion baby, right? The bridge to nowhere. Because it could be that Friedrich Merz wants some security guarantees from his UK and his UK and French buddies. If the Ukrainians use Taurus to take out the bridge and Russia blames Germany for it, will they have his back? Now, what does that mean? Well, what do the UK and France have that Germany doesn't have? They have nuclear weapons. Germany has always counted on protection from the US nuclear umbrella. Can Germany still count on that? No. Nobody can. Not with Trump as commander-in-chief. So now I don't know why he said that. Everything I've said is speculation. But something like that might be the reason why he's making it a diplomatic issue as well. I'm with you, Zoe. We're all with you. Okay, so that's Taurus. What else? We got a story today, the most amazing story. You know, the Russians just continue to regress, right? They're using donkeys, horses, and mules as pack animals to get ammunition and men to the front. Because they're out of armored personnel carriers, we saw a major what today we would consider a major armored assault in Zaporizhia today. 3 tanks, 9 armored personnel carriers, and 71 motorcycles. 140 men rushed to the front line on 71 motorcycles. Now, needless to say, 3 of the 9 APCs were destroyed in the attack. None of the tanks were. So the 3 tanks and 6 of the APCs retreated successfully. Casualties among the motorcyclists were very high. 80% of the losses were inflicted by drones. Of course they were. You're in a fucking motorcycle driving across an open field. What do you think is going to happen? Needless to say, the Russians did not reach the contact line before they were dissuaded and turned around. But this is part of Putin's spring offensive, is Zaporizhia, to capture Zaporizhia city, maybe get a foothold into the Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, maybe claim another oblast for the Russian Empire. While the Russians are doing that kind of shit and getting everybody killed, the Ukrainians launched a rescue effort for 3 Ukrainian soldiers that for a month had been pinned down by the Russians and could not escape, wounded, food and ammunition and water dropped to them by drones, and in rare supply for a month. The Ukrainians sent 3 ground drones, tracked vehicles over rough terrain 17 kilometers into this fortified position. The 3 wounded men crawled onto them, and then those drones drove them out of there to safety. Miraculous. Incredible. But guys, this is the essence of the difference between our system, right? I say our system, but because America is very much responsible for this system, the system of from the bottom up. You don't have Godhead emperors who can say no wrong. The men in charge have to listen to the people who tell them they're wrong and then explain to them why they're wrong in order to make better decisions. This is important, as we can see from the election of Donald Trump. So when you have a bottom-up strategy where the guys literally in the trenches can surface their ideas of how to be safer, how to be better, how to do new things, rather than a top-down strategy where the guy at the top is a genocidal lunatic who has rewritten history in his own brain to make him feel good about himself, while he commits the most terrible evil in the world every day. 17 miles. It will be a movie. Like one day it will be a movie. You know, there are so many good movies that could come out of this war. That's a terrible reason to have a war. I'm not advocating war for movies. The Ukrainian armed forces showed off there on the subject of ingenuity, innovation, redefining the 21st century. The Ukrainians, thank you, tip of the cap to the UK, About a year ago, the UK sent their Dragonfire drones down here, a couple of prototypes, and Ukrainian ingenuity has created a new battlefield capability. Ukraine is now one of 5 nations that have a deployed laser weapon system. Amazing. The Trident. The Trident can shoot down drones at 3 kilometers, 3,000 meters. It can blind pilots, helicopters, cruise missile guidance systems at 10 kilometers, 10,000 meters, or about 6 miles out. They can be mounted. Are you ready for this? The laser system can be mounted, Burke and Hare, correct, on the Alligator 9, which is if you imagine a Star Destroyer from Star Wars, right? Remember Vader's ship, a Star Destroyer? If you had a Ski-Doo that was shaped like a Star Destroyer, you would have the Alligator 5. Or 9, I'm sorry, the Alligator 9. The Alligator 9 is not simply a one-way kamikaze boat. No. It is an enhanced weapons platform that can be modularly designed for specific tasks. You can load these things up with as many as 10 Alligator 5 torpedo drones. So you can use it to sink enemy ships on the high seas. You can load it up with electronic warfare drones so that it acts as a wall through which other drones, enemy drones, cannot pass. Potentially cruise missiles, too, cannot pass. You can load it up with attack UAVs, and it becomes a platform for launching attacks far from shore, as well as a repeater station, so that they can be first-person view attack drones, controlled from hundreds of miles away. My favorite bit, there's a panel that slides up and a machine gun comes out for close quarter small arms support. No, that's not my favorite. My favorite is that you can mount the Trident laser system on it. You can mount the... How long before dozens of these things are patrolling the Black Sea and that laser weapon is being used to take drones, cruise missiles, helicopters, airplanes out of the sky before they can even reach the airspace of the temporarily occupied territories? Huge, huge kind of technical innovations. And that's what's going to save the Ukrainians, right? Is they don't have to throw men into the meat grinder, throwing away life like the Russians are, all in the service of dear leader and his ridiculous paranoia and appetites. What else did we see in the news today? Okay, this is my last news item. We'll finish with this one. So everybody knows the Su-57 is a joke, right? It's supposed to be Russia's great stealth fighter aircraft, whatever. It is not. It is a piece of shit, and they don't even have any. They have like 7 that actually fly, something like that. So it's not really a real thing. Yeah, it's supposed to be Zoe, but it's not. I mean, the Chinese literally laughed at it when they showed it at a Chinese air show. It's got exposed rivets on it, exposed, nuts. You gotta, if you want a small radar cross section, you need a stealth material and you need an absolutely flawless, seamless edge. This thing has fucking rivets sticking out of it. So the Su-57 is a joke. And the one time they used it in combat here, it was escorted by 2 Su-35s, which I thought was hysterical. You escort your stealth plane. Not very stealthy. Anyway. So The Russians had promised back in 2021 an export version, cheaper, only $30 million, that would be Gen 5 stealth technology called the Su-75. Now, this was back in 2021, 4 years ago. The first test flight was supposed to happen in 2022. Then it was supposed to happen in 2023. Then it was 2024. Then it was 2025. Now it's 2027, they announced today. So the Su-75 first test flight, it was announced today, is rescheduled for 2027. It will never happen, right? It's a joke. It's a joke. Yeah, Mike Kelly, that does worry me. We won't sell the Ukrainians Patriots. Ugh. Okay, so guys, that's it for me. That's the top line news. Oh, it is worth mentioning that Tesla new car registrations in Europe are down anywhere from 18% in the UK to 75% in Spain. I want to thank the sponsors of tonight's live: Chris Carter, no relation to the X-Files, Baria Trisabella and Tony, Dark Irish, Jose Hernandez, Little Red Sunflower, Integral, and Jerry O. Thank you all so much. Big thanks to Lars, who has the Discord server, Nightshade, who has the Peter's Peeps group on the Book of Faces, and to the moderator team, Jay and Travis. Thank you, gentlemen. The T-14 Armada, the Su-75 is like the plane version of the T-14 Armada, Altered Carbon, right? It's a joke. It's too expensive to produce. It doesn't work. And it was just all along a scam. They were meant to be sold to other countries, right? And now that other countries have seen the performance of Russian armaments on the battlefield, Russia's on its way to 7th place for export sales, dropping from 2nd place, which it had been in for some time. Okay. So, guys, that's my top line news. We got about 20 minutes, not quite 20 minutes, but we got about 20 minutes. Questions, comments, points of observation, or personal need. You know what? Wait a minute. Wait, just before we take questions, can I say one thing? As you all know, or as many of you know, I took some time off. I was off for a week. And the biggest thing that I learned is that it is very easy to avoid this war. In the 3 days I was in the Netherlands, no one spoke to me about the war. No one mentioned the war. The war was not on any screen that was in my view. It's like it wasn't happening. Life was perfectly normal, the way that it is without a war. And it was striking to me to watch the memory of the war melt away as I traveled west. On the bus out of Kyiv, women outnumbered men 6-1. Because, of course, men can't leave the country right now, right? There's a war on. And the partings at the train stations were family torn asunder. Or at the bus stations, rather, were just sad goodbyes. Every one of them. I didn't see a happy goodbye. Then you get to Berlin. And suddenly life is normal again. You're in a multicultural democracy with people of all faiths, creeds, colors on the bus. Equal proportions, men and women. And everybody's generally excited that they're going somewhere. The partings are happy partings. The reunions are happy reunions. And there is no war. There is no war. That was an important recognition for me. When you live it, breathe it, eat it daily, when it's your whole life, the idea that other people out there just don't even notice it's happening is striking and startling. And it's making me rethink all of the ways in which I approach these videos and these reports. Because the fact is, most people don't have any idea what's going on over here. So I'm not sure how I'm going to handle that, but that was my big takeaway from vacation. Will the Ukrainian Neptunes reach Moscow? William, the new long-range Neptune does. The new long-range Neptune has all kinds of capabilities that are not being made public, is my understanding. But as I understand it, the new Neptunes will reach Moscow. Also, it is worth mentioning, you know, the Ukrainians asked for $400 million for these long-range drone missile hybrids, right? And the Europeans just came up with 586 million tagged for that. So they got the money. They're going to start producing them. And we may see some of those hits on Moscow with those very weapons. Any word on the Russian revolutionaries? Yeah, the Freedom of Russia brigades are right now in Belgrade. So right now the Ukrainians are holding territory in 2 Russian states, Belgorod and Kursk. They're still in Kursk. Don't believe this bullshit that they're out of Kursk. There's still a foothold in Kursk and now a foothold in Belgorod. And that is being led by the Freedom of Russia Legion, the Russian Volunteer Corps, and the Siberian Brigade. All Russian citizens fighting for regime change in their own country. Hey, Manitoba. Are they getting local support? I don't know the answer to that. Where they are, there aren't a lot of people, first of all. A lot of pig farms, very agricultural. So there just aren't a lot of people there. On top of that, what there are a lot of are rivers and streams and lakes. And it appears that that's why the Ukrainians are holding that land. The F-16s came in and blew the bridges. So the Russians can't get to them, right? They're basically mooning them from one side of the river. So I don't know about local support. Zoe, Trump misreported the situation in Kursk, yes. He quoted something that Putin had said to Vitkov. Oh God, I'm doing it. Witkov, sorry. Witkov. All the Ukrainians say Vitkov. So Putin said this stupid lie to Witkov. Witkov repeated it to the president. The president repeated it to the world. It's nonsense. Hey, Magnus. How's your Tuesday going? Oh, Remus, you are so right. The White House is the largest Russian propaganda arm outside of the Kremlin itself. Yeah, Scott, I know. It's very hard to be an American right now. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do, man. But look, there's a felon in the White House who works for the Kremlin who is wholesale crashing the economy to make him and his billionaire friends rich, destroy our democracy in the process, make himself president for life with everybody wearing little gold Trump pins. Hail, dear leader. Hail, dear leader. Yeah, you know, Lemur Kitty, I'm afraid that it's going to come to that. But this band of ghouls and goblins, these idiots in the Trump orbit, they have to go. Good night, Avi. I know, Jacob. So do something about it. Do something about it. Hey, Franklin Johnson. Autumn in New Zealand, playing tennis today. Nice, Magnus. Yeah. Ah, it was great, Franklin. It was great. It was really, it was amazing. Dude, I haven't shut my brain off in 2 years. That's what I realized on this trip, is that I've been going nonstop for 2 years. And, you know, sometimes, anybody who pays attention to this channel knows how hard I work at it. And it's 2 years now. Now, see, Lemur Kitty, that's a good idea, right? Boycotts and work strikes, walkouts, civil disobedience, getting in good trouble. I'm on board with all of that. Yeah, I know, Annette, you're right. How was the blue cheese? What blue cheese? I don't remember blue cheese recently. Bip. There are all kinds of things, you know. There's a part of me that wants to leave Ukraine, go to one of these detention centers, and just padlock myself to the gate. I don't understand why Americans aren't doing that. I just don't understand why Americans aren't doing that. And that kind of civil disobedience. That should, walkouts, strikes, blocking highways. This should be happening all over the place. Certainly at these filthy, goddamn suspension of due process concentration camps that ICE has set up. And every American in ICE should be embarrassed. They should be ashamed of themselves. They are not doing what's in America's interest. Freedom doesn't last. Good. Worth every penny. Are you a free member? Because I don't recognize that name from the Patreon. But freedom doesn't last makes a good point. Guys, if you follow this channel, but you don't have a Patreon membership, they are free. And I encourage you to get one because, as Freedom Doesn't Last points out, every morning I do, like we do this every night, every morning I do the news we are waking up to. And so that's available to Patreons first. This is publicly available to anybody that tunes in. But the Patreon news in your inbox every morning, and it's worth every penny, according to Freedom Doesn't Last. It is available to free members. Oh, Cake Boy and Banjo. Gotcha. Oh, dude, it was so nice. It was so nice. You know, the shit in Ukraine is terrible. But the shit in Holland was pretty good. So that was nice for a change. You are in an insane asylum, Rusty, and the prisoners are in charge. Baller 5. Baller? Oh, I'll have to take a look. All right, welcome aboard, pal. I didn't see that in there. Baller. Okay. So freedom doesn't last. Join the Patreon at $5 a month. Guys, please help me out. I'm so broke after this trip. Oh my God. Yeah, everybody was very helpful, don't get me wrong, but I did I had a buffer of a couple $100 in the bank. That is all gone now. I literally have like $20 to my name. So I only have sponsors through tomorrow night. If anybody wants to sponsor Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, the PayPal's in the description, and rent is going to be due soon. So join the Patreon, $5 a month, please. And I did not get a good pizza. I forgot to have pizza in. If I had known how bad the experience at Burger King was going to be, I would not have spent $33 at Burger King. Burger King in Amsterdam was $33. Swear to God, it was like going to New York. Just like New York. Except the burger came out cold. Like, what? Anyway. So, whatchamacallit, if I had known that it was going to be so bad, the Burger King, which I was so looking forward to because there is no Burger King here, and I hadn't had Burger King in 2 years. If I had known that, I would have gotten some pizza. I am sorry that I did not get pizza. Because the pizza here is not good. It's not good. I had a great Hey, James, your transport driver. How you doing, pal? I was just thinking about you the other day. Wondering where those horses are. I was in Amsterdam, and we drove out. So this is what happened. We drove out to the North Atlantic seawall. Now that's Hitler's seawall, right, that he built for the defense of occupied Netherlands during World War II. And on the way out there, James, there was a horse farm, and they were getting a delivery. There was somebody coming in, bringing in horses. And I did think of you when I saw them there. So we're driving out there. We pass these horses. We pass this horse farm. We get to the seawall. And I'm standing on a bunker that the Germans built in World War II in order to defend the land that they had stolen. And my buddy Martin takes me to his house, right? He's got a house on a dike overlooking the North Sea. And he shows me a picture of the house from 1945. There's an air defense gun on the roof that's manned by German soldiers, right? World War II German soldiers working for Mustache Man, who had this air defense gun on the roof of the house in order to protect the house and the land they had stolen from the Dutchmen from liberation by the British and Allied forces. Now, just imagine, it's 1945, and Franklin Delano Roosevelt says, well, you know, the Dutch people, they speak a kind of German. They're basically German. And the Germans lost so many men taking the Netherlands. They should get to keep it. They're invested there. And if he had sanctioned the Dutch hunger winter genocide of the Dutch people, because that's exactly what Donald Trump is saying about the Ukrainians, is that they aren't a real nation. They belong to Russia. We should hand them over. That's where we're at. And it scares the shit out of me, I gotta tell you. T-Bone, I sure did. And I want to thank everybody who specifically sent me messages that that's what I should do with the money. You guys are the best. I think I might have left somebody out of my list because I think somebody got added to the list late. Hold on a second. I was very grateful. I was very fortunate. Some friends of mine were going there. And they said, hey, come along. And a bunch of people on here made it possible. And I would thank especially Arn, Larry Nelson, Dave Howells, Jan Austin, David Tomlinson, Margaret Heller. And let me just check if there wasn't some. I feel like there was somebody else jumped in there toward the end. Hey, Pug and Mahone. Let me just double check here, make sure. Boom Chicago was great, except tickets were $33 and a seltzer water was $11. Oh yeah, Arn, Larry Nelson, Margaret Heller. I think I got everybody. Oh no, Little Red Sunflower too. Yeah. Little Red Sunflower. Annette, I don't recognize your name. I'm sorry if you have a different name online that I might not be aware of. But no, that's everybody. Little Red Sunflower plus that list from before that I'm aware of. Okay. Oh, and it was Chef Deb the Crone. That's who it was. There's one other too, Chef Deb. So I can't tell you how thankful I am. Let me tell you, it was good to unplug for 3 days. It was so great to see real, because I'm an amateur at everything. I'm an amateur comedian, amateur improv guy, amateur social media guy, amateur all around. So it was great to see the professionals really kill it at Boom Chicago, boy. Really amazing. Okay. What? Oh, James. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. You will be the sponsor of tomorrow night's live then, sir. Oh, wow. Look at that. 67,500 likes. Somebody's tapping pretty hard there. Well, Bip, it doesn't matter, brother, because I'm going to call it a night. It's late. It's 1 a.m. here in beautiful uptown Kyiv. I'm Peter Alexievich, and this has been the Live at 5 from Kyiv. Thank you all so very much. It's very nice to be back. And I hope with a kind of revitalized purpose. I'll leave that for you to decide. All right, kids. Hey, Arne. How you doing, pal? How am I doing with that? Not bad, right? Like, that's a big improvement, I think. Or is it bad? Is it not good? Is it bad? I'm trying. Damn it. All right. All right, kids. Make it a great day. I'll talk to you later. There's Little Red, too. Hey, Little Red. All right, catch y'all later.